Okay, good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be doing a brick lay pattern perms. So here is the video, and then we'll get on to the demonstration.
In the salon. Designers like it because it is easy and efficient to apply. Clients love it because it avoids unattractive splits. Using cylindrical tools of the same diameter throughout the design creates a repetition of texture that marries perfectly with the uniform lengths of the design. This exercise is performed on straight, uniformly layered lengths. The 1-2 method is used to wrap this brick lay pattern, with the direction moving away from the face. A repetition of tool diameters creates repetitious curl texture. Tool lengths are varied to adapt to the size and shape of the head. This wrap does not require sectioning. The art shows the partings used to create the brick lay wrapping pattern. Horizontal and diagonal partings are used to create rectangular, trapezoid, and triangular bases, which accommodate the curves of the head. 1 diameter bases will be used throughout this exercise. The 1-2 method is used to wrap. Measure and part a 1 diameter rectangular base parting at the center front hairline. Distribute and project the hair at 90 degrees, position a single end paper, and wrap away from the face with the overlap technique to achieve half-off base control. Fasten the band and temporarily position a pick toward the face to secure. Use 1 diameter diagonal partings and wrap the next 2 rods at the center of the first rod to avoid splits. Begin the next row at the center again, fully establishing the 1-2 method that will be used throughout the wrap. As you work, use picks to secure the tools in the direction of the wrap. Continue adjusting the angle of the diagonal partings as they extend to the sides of the head. Work outward from the center to the hairline in each row to create symmetry. Begin at the center of each row using 1 or 2 rods. Continue using 1 diameter bases and half-off base control. Use consistent tension as you wrap each tool toward the base to create an even curl formation. Adjust the angle of the diagonal forward partings to adapt to the curves of the head, and adjust the length of the rods used to accommodate the hairline. Continue to position tools parallel to the bottom parting and half-off base. Secure each rod in the direction of the wrap as you work. To transition through the crown, some partings will not extend to the hairline. These rows taper at either side and will require fewer rods than the rows before and after. Continue using the overlap technique within these transitional rows, positioning each tool half-off base. Continue, beginning each row with 1 or 2 rods and using the 1-2 method to avoid splits. Decrease the angle of the diagonal forward partings as you work toward the nape. Adjust the length of the tools used to accommodate the requirements of each parting, working to the hairline in the appropriate rows. Continue using the overlap technique and positioning tools half off base. Maintain even tension throughout the design. Work toward the nape using the same techniques. Use transitional rows as needed to work over the curves of the head. Complete the wrap using the same techniques to achieve consistent curl formation and support. Check the position of each rod, making sure each is half off base and properly secured in the direction of the wrap. Here we see the finished wrapping pattern. Place cotton along the hairline and saturate the hair on each rod with processing solution. Process and neutralize according to manufacturer's instructions. A repetition of curl diameter is achieved throughout the design, reflecting the uniformity of the sculpture. The bricklay wrapping pattern avoids splits in the finished result.
Okay, so that one, a lot of people like that because there's no sectioning. A lot of people like that because there is no roller lines that you have to worry about. Sometimes when you do a permanent, like a rectangle or a different type of wrap, those sectioning lines sometimes show up in the after you process it. But this one, if you do it correctly, does not have any of those lines. So think about a brick, right? How the brick is done. Good.
Sammy,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
In the video, it shows that the guy doesn't even fully wrap the hair with the paper.
Yeah, that's known as a single flat wrap. I'm not a fan of that because I don't feel like I can have enough control over the hair by doing that type of wrap. But some people, I mean, they really like it. And I know some people who do it all the time, but I just feel like I don't get the full amount of control that I need with the wrapping paper. You can try it though. I mean, it is a technique to use, so it can be done. So what I like to do when I start with this, again, is just start right in the very front. This is known also as a 1-2 method. So for me, I have to section this out in my brain, combing it, or else I'm never gonna figure it out. So I do a lot of combing. So as I start in the front, I'm gonna start with my first one. This is number 1. For this purpose, I'm gonna roll this one back today in the front. So I think if you needed to measure it, you could. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna comb this back again. I do a lot of combing. Right about the center of this rod, so I'm gonna part that kind of down the center here. and come in over here. Now, you don't want to go on a straight vertical up and down. You sort of want to go on like a little diagonal coming to the back, because if you keep going straight up and down, when you get to the sides, they're going to be like this, all vertical. We don't want them vertical. We want them sort of on a diagonal where they're not straight up and down, but they're sort of got that little angle to it. So what I'm going to do over here is come in and pick up this one. This is 2. And now on this side over here, I'm going to do the same. The biggest challenge is getting the same parting on each side. Sometimes that's really difficult to do, is get the same parting on both sides. So you want to get the same angle on your part. So one of the things that you want to really be careful with right here on these first 2 is that they don't have a big gap, because sometimes they want to hang down like that. And you don't want that gap, because if you process that, that's going to be like a hole right there once that hair has been completely processed. So this is where the picks come into play. So you can take one of these little picks, place it underneath the band here, come right underneath the band on this side, and it holds it into place. Then you can do the same thing with the other one. Go right underneath it towards the end of the rod, and then lift this band up and go right toward sort of like the beginning of that rod. And then that's holding that still for you there, so that it's not going to move around, so you don't end up processing that with this huge gap there.
What if we don't have the picks?
Toothpick, straw, small little like pencil, anything would work. So now we're going to come back to the very first one here. We're going to go back to 1. So this is 1, 2. Now we're going to go back to 1. So I'm just going to part this back down again for where I'm at, where I started, like my first center parting now. And I'm going to pick this up for 1.
How do you do that half parting or the half folds with the paper?
The half, what, say that again?
The half fold with the paper, how do you do that with one hand again?
With one hand? Okay, I'll show you now. So now, when I'm coming to do my 2 again, I need to really look at the angle that I'm going to be putting on it. I'm going to be kind of coming down this way with that angle. So I'm going to comb this hair back so that I can get that from the center of this rod again. I'm going to come down here on this angle. So with the 1 paper, I hold, okay, do like this, right? Take my comb, place it in here. Sometimes I use my thumb to hold it. Sometimes I use my pinky or my ring finger, either or. So I'm going to hold this up, move this over. I am going to switch my fingers to hold with my pinky and my ring finger. Get my fingers wet here. Lengthwise across the top of my finger, and I'm holding it with my thumb. Okay. Sort of do this thing to smooth it out. And then I pick it up, kind of leaving the ends like this, right in the center. Squeeze that, move these fingers down to the bottom, and pull it out. Remember though, don't get it too close to the fold over here. We need that gap. So I'm going to roll this one down. Same thing on the other side over here. I'm going to comb this one back. And you can use your previous rod that you have in here as sort of a guide so you don't get too far down in here in the parting. You just kind of come to about almost the end and kind of do your diagonal up. Remember, the trickiest part is getting the same size diagonal on the other side. So now I've got 1, 2, 1, 2. Now I'm going to come back to 1. This is where the head starts just getting a little bit wider here in this area. So now we're going to change this up just a little bit. You may need to do, instead of 3 or 1, 2, you may need to do 1, 1, 2, 2 or 2, 3. So I'll show you though, because we're getting there. So if you're right-handed, your left side is going to be more of a challenge, of course. Okay, so now if I come back here to do 2, I'm going to end up in this really weird kind of piece because I already have a piece over here. So what you have to do is when you're doing your partings on your diagonals, part this and I'll show you. There's my diagonal parting. Can you see that? There. Okay. Notice how I didn't go too far down. I didn't go all the way down to the edge here. I stopped about right here in the middle of where my rod is, because now my next one, I can, when I go back to 1, I'm going to pick this up. So I'll show you on this side. Let me get this one in. Here's 2. This one takes a little bit of being able to picture it in your mind. And sometimes, depending on the person's head shape, you may just have to put an extra rod in just to fill in that space. Or how much hair someone has on one side versus the other. Or maybe you didn't section it perfectly, so you have an extra little spot there. Just put an extra rod in. Okay. So now I'm going to come back to 1. I do a lot of partings just because I feel like I can control the hair better when I do that. This little piece didn't get cut. I don't know if you can see that, but that one little piece got missed. So here's 1. As I come back over here, pull 1 here. See, now I have this piece here, like how did that happen, right? So I'm just going to follow this down again in that space, right where I was at, and I'm just gonna add another rod there. I'm gonna put a short one in because it's a small piece. And you might find that when you're trying this, that one side you have them going one way, and then the other side you have them going another way. Check the way that you parted it. That's the reason that that happens. So now the head's getting wider. So we may need to put an extra rod in just because of the shape of the head. So I'm gonna come over here, or you may just need to do one row. So I'm just gonna see how this fits. So I'm back to 2. So I don't know if you can see on this one right here how this end is sort of lifting up a little bit here. What this means is that I did not get my tension in correctly. And I probably lifted it up a little bit too much this way instead of bringing it straight up. So I'm gonna just come back in and redo that one because it looks funky the way that it's laying. So I'll just change that. Bring it down a little bit more instead of bringing it so far up. So if you find that when you're practicing this, that if the one side at the bottom sort of has like a little loose lip to it, just hold the hair down a little bit more. Okay, so now I'm in the back where the head's starting to get really wide. So what I'm gonna have to do is start here in the center. Let's see, I had 1, 1, 1, 1. This was 2. So I'm gonna start with 1 right here in the center. So as I do that, move to this angle over here. I'm just gonna put my 1 here in the center. And then I'm gonna put one right next to it. I do one on the other side right next to it. And then I'm going to come back to the center again because I want to keep it, kind of all in the same row. So that was one. So now I'm going to come back to two because I don't want to have them too uneven there. So as I come back to two here, I'm almost now going horizontal. So this is where you really have to pay attention. If you're going 1, 2, 1, 2, where are you? Well, now I'm back to 2. I'm going to put a short one right here because I don't have a very big spot on the head. So now back on this side, I'm almost going straight across. Now I have to go back to 1 here in the center. And let's see, I have a small space right next to this. So I'm going to put in a shorter rod. This is truly like a puzzle. On this side, I have a larger space. So I'm going to come over and put one large one. And you will probably have to measure until you get used to knowing the exact width of the rods. Took me a while to get this one down because it was just all about trying to figure out how the head pieced out. So right here, I can come in with a shorter one. It's a smaller piece of hair, so we're going shorter.
Because I'm really getting on a diagonal and I want to stay more horizontal. So what I'm going to do now, when I come back here to start with 2, I'm going to bring my 2 here. Let's see. I can do one over here. It's really big, maybe not. Maybe I'll do 2. I'll do 2 smaller ones just because it's a little bit big for just one. And then the piece I have left over is going to be too small for a short one. So I'm just going to divide that and put 2 short ones in over here. Okay, so now on this side, I'm gonna do sort of because the head's rounded, so I'm gonna do an irregular parting and make this parting sort of like a rounded parting a little bit so that I can start getting this more horizontal. And then I'm just gonna stop right there because now that's pretty horizontal, except that band is super twisted. And twist that band. And now I'm gonna come back. If I'm parting straight down the center like we did with the rectangle, this was my 1, this is my 2, so now I'm gonna come back to the 1. I was hoping I could just get 1 in here, but nope. So the same thing on this side. If I was to take this whole parting here, it's too wide for just this one. So if I use just this one, I would only have like this much left, which is kind of small. So I'm just gonna divide this area right here in half and do 2 shorter rods. Now on this side, I can do just 1 long rod. It'll fit. Now I'm gonna come back. That was my 1, so now I'm doing 2. So it's going to be a long rod and a short one. I was just checking to see if maybe it would have been better to do 2 short ones, but it was too large of a section for 2 short ones. And it does take practice in doing this a while before you can get used to just eyeballing the section. You'll have to measure. So if I come over here, and I say, okay, 1 long, and I'll have that piece left over, or is it better to do 2 shorts? On this side, I think it's better to do 2 shorts than the long and short. So we'll do 2 shorts on this side, which that's totally normal. 2 things happen with that. Probably didn't part perfectly straight, or someone's head is just shaped a little differently.
Ms. Connie, can you go over what are you talking about 1, 2, and 3?
Okay, so this is known as a 1-2 method. Okay, so do you remember yesterday how we just parted straight down the center rectangle, right? If we're gonna put a number to that, that was just all 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, right? Because it was all the same. So when we're looking at this, if we could visualize just parting down the center like this first one would be 1. When that gets divided in half, that's 2. You go back to the center, that's 1. This is 1. When you divide that down the middle right here, this is 2. But because we came off on the side, that became 2 or 2, 3, whatever you want to look at it there. We go back to here, which is 1, 2, 1, 2. Then when you came off over to the side here, you had 3, or it still could be 2. Does that make more sense?
Yeah.
Sort of, kind of. So if you look in the back here, if you think about coming down the center, you're going to see 1, 1. Every other one should be 1. And then in the center of that 1, it should part. And then you have 2 coming off of it. So that becomes the 2. So that's why they call it the 1-2 method. But when you get over to the sides, you're just be doing down the center. When you go to the side, you have to add more. So that becomes 2, becomes another 2 or 3, whichever way you want to look at it. All right, so I'm down here at the bottom. Let's see. I just did 2. I'm just gonna put 1 more over here to kind of fill in that space because it looks like I'm higher with 1 rod on my right side than I am on my left. So I'm just gonna put another rod right here and just fill in that space and make it more even. Okay, so now we're going to come back to the center for 1. One more short one over here like I have on this side. And then down the center again for the 2, right? Because this will be 2 over here. And now the nape area is narrow. So it's just gonna fit right in. I don't have to try to add a short one or anything. It's just gonna, 2 long ones right here. And this is also known as the brick lay, because if you think about the way, you know, bricks are laid with some mortar in between, it's not the same, right? It's like 1 and then there's 2 and then there's 1 and 2. Like the side of a brick building, how those bricks are laid in there. This is why they call this the brick lay method. Okay. Come back here and do 1 in the center. Two short ones off to the sides. And then 2 more over here on this side. This one takes practice, trying to just make sure that you get them all placed correctly because there's no sectioning. It's a little dry. So the whole idea is when you look at this, that you don't see any of them that are just all in a row. They should just be all staggered, just like bricks, so that you don't end up with sectioning lines on that. Some people like this because you can't really tell which way the hair was wrapped. So once you complete your wrapping, this is where you're going to put your protective cream. I'm going to go around the hairline. Over the ears, down around the back. Being sure not to touch the hair, because if you touch the hair with your protective cream, it's not gonna, the solution will not penetrate through there. So once you get the protective cream applied, now you're gonna apply your cotton. Remember, you don't need a really long piece of cotton to apply right here. Now that's when we're gonna put our gloves on.
So the cloth is falling off
The what's falling off?
on one of the side of the forehead. A piece of the cloth is coming off.
Okay, that's back on, thanks. Okay, so, got our gloves on, pretend I have to. Okay. When we go to apply this, don't really want it to drip. The client's gonna be sitting there draped. They're going to be having their towel, their drape, their other drape, their other towel, 2 towels and a drape.
So one way that you could do this is take a piece of cotton, about what, a few inches of cotton. Take a perm rod, wrap it around it to help catch the drips. This is one way. There's several different ways, but this is one way. Okay. Now what I like to do is start at the bottom because it drips, right? Clients sit down, and a lot of times as soon as they sit down, they like to tilt their head forward. It's gonna run all down into their face. So what I like to do is just have them tilt their head forward a little bit. Start at the very bottom. When you go to apply this, what you wanna do is be really careful with it so it doesn't drip everywhere. And you don't wanna just go like this and like squirt it all over the place. You wanna do each rod one at a time. So start at the bottom, go across the top of each rod and move this to catch the drips. Across the top and across the middle. So you're going across. From one end, you start to squeeze it, you go across to the other. When you get to that side, you squeeze it again and you come back to the center and then you release the bottle, right? Squeeze the bottle, go across the top, release. Squeeze the bottle, go across the middle and release. You wanna make sure that each one of these is thoroughly saturated. Once you have this all saturated, usually they come with a bag. You're going to place the bag over the head and you're gonna wait your 10 minutes, 5 minutes, however long the instructions say. And we're gonna come back to do a test strand. In order to do the test strand, you grab one, you undo it, no tension, you don't pull it out and then try to push it back. That doesn't work. So what you wanna do is just roll it with no tension about 1.5 times, and it should make an indentation about right here, which sort of looks like a little S or a little ziggly line. And that will let you know if it needs to be rinsed or if it needs more processing time. Once it's processed, you rinse it out for a full 5 minutes, if not more. Towel dry it super, super, super good. If their hair is super drippy, you can even put them underneath a heated dryer, depending on how porous the hair is and what type of condition that the hair is in, just for a couple minutes to stop those drips. You want it sort of damp. And then you're going to apply the neutralizer in the same way. Follow the manufacturer's directions. If they say, hey, leave it for 10 minutes, leave it for 10 minutes. If they say leave it for 5 and then remove the rods, leave it for 5 and then remove the rods. Once that's completely done, you're gonna do a final rinse, clean up, and put your stuff away, or finish the client, and then wait. Once you remove the rods and rinse the head, you're going to clean the sink, take your rods out, put them in a towel, a soil container, whatever it is that you have to know that you have to clean those when you're done. Clean your shampoo area, have the client go back to the chair, finish the client, clean up, and then do your client record card. On that client record card, we want to make sure that we have the date, the type of service that was done, the product that was used, and just what you did. I mean, what did you do to that client? So that's what we need to be working on here. Let's see, somebody else came on that I didn't get. Valerie Leslie.
Nick.
I got you, Nick. Okay, so those of you that just came on, are you aware that we're starting theory at 10 o'clock now?
No,
Okay, well, we are.
I was okay. She already started. That means I was like an hour late.
So
Thanks for texting. I'm just kidding.
you should have gotten a text. And you know what, Nick? I know you gave me your numbers and I wrote them on a piece of paper and then I threw the paper away. So I'm gonna have to get those numbers from you again.
Bruce, we don't care about you.
I know, I'm always forgotten. It's no good.
So yeah, I'll have to get those numbers again from you when you.
All right.
Okay, so here's, this week we start, so theory now is Monday through Friday. It is 10 to 12 for practical demonstration. Then 1 to 2 is actual theory in your book. We started with chapter 1. Okay. And then from 2 to 4, we actually go over everything again. If you have questions, help, whatever you need to do for that, we do that again at 2 to 4. Okay, so any questions for that, then you guys can ask. But we are going to take a break right now for about 10 minutes. So it's 11:01. I'll see you guys at 11:11. Okay, and we will be back. Hi, Adam. I know you just got here, but we're going to be coming back at 11:11. Okay, I'll see you guys in a few minutes. Hi, we're back. Reach this over here. Make sure I have everyone on here. Let's see, Karen, Valerie, Ashley, Nick. There you are, Nick. Okay, Jasmine, Leslie. Look, I'm missing someone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I guess so. Okay. So remember, we're starting theory at 10 for the demonstrations. So you guys didn't get that text message that came out on Friday? Leslie? Did you get the text message that came out Friday?
Yeah,
You gonna look at it?
but you know, I just went, and that's it. Oh, okay.
So Nick has an excuse because like I lost his numbers. That was my fault. I'm sorry, Nick.
You want to take that down real quick?
Yes.
209, 209, 581, 7667. That's the primary one though.
Okay. So is that the one that you're texting in your assignments off of?
Yeah.
Okay, just to make sure I have all that. So remember, back at 1 o'clock now is theory. We started chapter 1 yesterday, or 101 if you're a barber. So today we're just going to finish up chapter 1, and then we'll just start and go right on into chapter 2. Okay, so should work for it. Okay, so let's go into the procedure now. Let's see what everyone remembers. Sharing screen, whiteboard, share. All right. So we are doing a perm procedure. Do you know what else a perm could be called? Does anyone have an idea? Come on, you guys, jump in, talk to me. Do we know any other names?
Is a relaxer considered different?
Yeah, than an actual permanent wave, yes.
Okay.
I know sometimes people call relaxers perms, but in this case, what we're doing with this perm is we're taking straighter hair and making it curly, where with the relaxer, we're taking curly hair and making it straight. So it's kind of, it's the same but different.
Okay.
So we have a permanent wave. Sometimes these may have been known as a cold wave, just because there's no heat required. If they had heat required to them, they would be known as endothermic or exothermic. Okay, so the endothermics and the exothermics require heat, like a heat source. The endothermics usually go with like a dryer or like a heat lamp because they need some type of heat to be made for them. The exothermic, actually you mix an activator into the bottle and the bottle itself gets warm. So like the solution inside the bottle gets warm. So these are all types of waves.
There's other types too, but this is kind of, what else do we have? We have cold wave, exothermic, endothermic. There's a acid wave. There's a thio-free wave. And there's an ammonia-free wave. And I always get confused on ammonia if it's 2 N's or 1. There's ammonia-free. There's probably a couple more too, but those are the most common. Okay, so for our procedure, the first thing that we always want to do is, someone want to throw that out for me? Very first thing that we always want to do before we start any procedure.
Consultation.
These things.
Sanitize.
Yeah, sanitize very first. Now this is even before the consultation, right? As soon as the client sits down, you should sanitize your hands. So yeah, consultation, that's great. But before we do that consultation, we want to make sure that we drape that client. So if we're draping that client for a chemical service, what kind of drape are we using?
Double drape.
Very good. Now we can consult. After we consult, we also want to check and analyze. Like I'm spelling something wrong. Okay. Analyze hair and scalp. So we're checking, we're analyzing, we're feeling for texture, we're checking the density, we're looking for any cuts, abrasions, disorders, parasites, anything that doesn't look natural on that client's head, as well as them talking and asking questions, you know, of what they want to have done, you know, how they wear their hair, what their expectations are, you know, all of that great stuff. So we're going to check and analyze the hair and scalp. And then we are going to shampoo. What type of shampoo are we using? You know what type of shampoo we use? Clarifying. I cannot spell today. So we're using a clarifying shampoo. This clarifying shampoo is going to remove any of the buildups or any of those other things. Oh, well, you know that that's supposed to say clarify, right? So we're going to be checking for buildup off the scalp, or not off the scalp, off the hair from products. Anyone takes any medications, it could remove some of that outer layer of medications off the hair, and it's going to just leave the hair nice and clean so that the chemicals can penetrate into that cortex a little bit easier. We also use no conditioner. You don't want to use conditioner because if that conditioner places a coating over the hair, it could hinder the way that the permanent wave takes. So we don't want to use any conditioner. So now we will wrap. Okay, so yesterday we did just a regular 9-block rectangle perm, which is just the normal average perm. We did the bricklay. Bricklay is considered a specialty wrap. So like I did it on the same doll. So let's say for just example sakes here, if I charge $50 for the regular perm wrap, now that I'm doing the bricklay, I would be charging the same, or would I charge more? What do you guys think?
More?
More? How much more do you think you would charge?
If you're charging 65 on a regular perm, add another $20 to it.
Okay. And that all depends on where you work. The more this specialty wrap, yeah, you do charge more. Clients don't know the difference between the bricklay and the regular perm, but if your client, well, some clients don't, some do. So if your client says, yeah, I always get a perm and, I always see like these lines from the rollers and I don't like that, then that would be an indication to you that like, hey, okay, they probably got a regular rectangle perm or a 9-block perm. And so now we should do the bricklay perm or the 1-2 perm for them. And, you just explain it to them and let them know like, hey, I got this over here. This might be a little bit different for you. What do you think? And then they'll either say sure or no, one or the other. But always be upfront with your clients about the pricing and how you would actually, the procedures that you're going to do, like what they're getting for their money. I know they're getting you to do it. That's all that should matter, right? So after we get finished wrapping the hair, then we're going to apply our protective cream. And then we're going to apply our cotton. And at this point in time, I always recheck the draping just because the client's sitting there, they're talking, they might be moving a little bit. The drape could come loose or, it could not be on there correctly. So just recheck your draping. So now we're going to get ready to put the solution on the head. One of the things that I want to do is do it at the shampoo bowl. I don't like to do it at the station just because, what if, okay, this is a big what if because I've never had it happen to me personally, but let's go on the side of caution here. What if it dripped down into the client's eyes? Or what if you put it on their head and all of a sudden they're saying, oh, my head's burning? Or if in a real extreme case, what if their head started smoking or something? You want to be right there at that shampoo bowl to have water handy in case you needed to rinse it off immediately, in case you need to flush their eye out. If you're trying to navigate them across the floor, the clinic floor, and they've got perm solution burning their eye, that could be a little traumatic. So let's just make sure we're at the shampoo bowl where we have water ready to apply to them. So I never got solution in someone's eye, but I did pop someone in the eye one time with the end of the rubber band. So I was going to hook it and it slipped out of my fingers and it popped them right in the eye. That, I'm sure that didn't feel very good because if you've ever had those snap on your fingers, it hurts. So if you could imagine what it feels like in your eye. Oh, that was awful. That was just awful. The poor lady. Luckily, she's one of my regular clients and, she knows I didn't do that on purpose, but that could have been a bad situation all the way around. So recheck your draping. Let's go to the shampoo bowl. Okay, so now we want to make sure we have gloves on, right? Because we're going to touch a chemical now. We need to make sure that we have our gloves on. Once our gloves are on, now we can apply. And it's called waving solution. Man, I am just like brain dead on spelling today. So now we're going to apply this waving solution. And just about every single perm these days has a bag in the box to put the bag over the top of the head just to help with the processing. So we are going to place bag on. Now, one thing that you want to remember is that cotton, once it gets saturated with the waving solution, that is a chemical. It can give someone a chemical burn, which is something that we don't want.
I mean, it's a chemical burn, right? And you guys have all been burned before, I'm sure, like a heat burn or any kind of a burn, you know, it doesn't feel that great. So where the cotton sits around the forehead like this, I have seen people take it off and they have like this hot pink line all the way around their forehead. Well, that just means that solution has been on there way too long and it's burned that client. So once we put the bag on, another thing we have to watch out for too is that that plastic that's touching the head where the bag's at, solution can, you know, get caught in that also. So we want to make sure that that's not sitting directly on the client's skin either. Yes, protective cream helps, but it's not the cure or it's not the fix. So once we place the bag on, we want to remove the cotton once it's stopped dripping. And if it's still dripping a little bit, put another piece of cotton on. If you have to change that cotton more than twice, you're using way too much solution. Let's just say that. It should stop dripping right away. It should have, like, the hair should absorb it and it should just be processing. So we want to remove the cotton. We want to make sure that that bag doesn't have any solution like pooled in that bag that's coming into direct contact with the skin. If you need to add more cotton, go ahead, but remember to change it every time it becomes necessary. So that means you're going to have to periodically check it. Okay, once we get the cotton removed and we get that all situated, we're going to process it. Most perms today say between 10 and 20 minutes, depending on the hair. Okay, you'll find people who say, oh, my hair is real resistant. It takes at least 30 to 35 minutes. That may be true for a perm that was done, you know, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe even. But now most of the perms are about 20 minutes max. So we want to do a test curl. We want to do this about every 5 minutes, just to check the hair, you know, especially if it has color treated hair. If it has color on it or if it has, you know, highlights or anything like that, we definitely want to test it. You can always do a test curl before you even start to do a perm on somebody, just to see how their hair is going to react and to make sure that you don't have any bad reactions to it. You can do that prior to actually doing a perm too. So we're gonna do this test curl for every 5 minutes. Once the curl, you know, is where we want it, we're gonna remove the bag, we're gonna remove the cotton, and we're going to remove one glove. So we're getting ready to, so when hair has curled, remove bag. We really shouldn't have cotton on the head at this point. So now we're going to rinse. So usually when you're rinsing, you want that water to be comfortable for the person. Oh wait, remove bag. Let's do remove glove. Okay, then we're gonna rinse. We want to make sure that we remove that glove so that we can feel the temperature of the water with our hand that's holding the hose, right? We want to rinse for a minimum of 5. Okay. Let's rinse for a minimum of 5 minutes. Okay. The reason why we rinse for a minimum of 5 minutes, feeling the water temperature, making sure that it's comfortable for our client, so we have to actually communicate with them and talk with them, is because we want to make sure that we get all that solution out of the hair. Now it's going to smell, perm smell. Some of them smell really bad. Some of them smell like rotten eggs. Ugh, though some of them smell real bad. It's the ammonia in them and the thioglycolate, but they do smell. If you don't rinse for that full 5 minutes and you neutralize it, you're like sealing that smell in the hair. And this client's gonna be smelling that perm for days, I mean weeks, maybe even like the whole life of the perm. So what we wanna make sure is that we really, really rinse it so that we are removing that smell. Remember, it's still gonna smell, but it'll usually go away after they shampoo their hair. So after we rinse it for the 5 minutes, then we're going to towel blot it. We don't want it drippy. So if that means you have to go over each individual rod with a towel and pushing on it with your fingers to make sure that you're getting all of that water out of it, or if you have to put them underneath a heated dryer for a couple minutes to towel blot that water off and remove all that excess moisture, that's what you're gonna do. Because remember, if it has too much moisture in the hair, it's going to dilute the solution, and then you might get an uneven curl, or you're gonna get unwanted results. So after we rinse and towel blot, we neutralize. Where are we going? Oh, bye. So now we're going to neutralize. Most neutralizers say neutralize for 5 minutes, neutralize for 10 minutes. Follow the manufacturer's directions on that. Some neutralizers will say to take the rods out, use any remaining neutralizer that's in the bottle and squeeze it on the hair and massage it through and then rinse it. Some manufacturers say to drop down the rods, or I'm sorry, to rinse the hair with the rods in it and then take the rods out. Follow the directions. I've done both. It's easier to take the rods out first, squirt the remaining neutralizer in, work it through, and then rinse it out. People don't really fit very well in the shampoo bowls with perm rods in their hair. So it's a little easier if you take the rods out first and then neutralize. Okay. So now after you neutralize, remove rods. Oh, and most neutralizers are 5 to 10 minutes, just depending on the manufacturer. So now we're gonna remove the rods. Okay. After we remove those rods, we will rinse the hair again. And then we're going to towel blot the hair again. So now we need to clean the shampoo area. Okay, so now we've got these perm rods in the sink. What do we do with them? Oh yeah, and by the way, when you take the rods out, my doll head right here, show you. We want you to take the papers off when you take the rods out. So the easiest way to do that, back up here so you can see. So when you're going to remove these, you want to take the rod out, and as you're pulling the rod out, grab the paper in one hand and have the rod in the other. And you can usually grab like a handful of these papers before you have to throw them away. These you could throw into the sink. Once you get them in the sink though, you're going to have to clean the sink out. So what do you do with the rods? Well, you rinse them really, really well. And then you bundle them up in a towel or a tub or something to hold their soiled rods, because you're going to have to disinfect this when you finish with the client. So we want to clean the shampoo area, the sink, the chair, the back bar, make sure there's no water on the floor, follow your client back to the station, make sure they're not dripping water off their head. If they are, you need to clean that up right away. So we're going to get them back there, and then we're going to finish our client. Okay. You may have to cut their hair. They may want to dry it. If they want it dried, then you're going to put them underneath the hooded dryer. You're not going to take a blow dryer to a fresh perm. So it gets frizzy for one. Put some mousse in it, or some gel, or some serum, or whatever type of products that they use. I love mixing mousse and serum together. That's one of my favorite concoctions for curly hair. Put some mousse and serum together, put it through the hair, and let them go. With the instructions that they do not shampoo their hair for 48 to 72 hours. That's what most manufacturers say. No shampoo. Now during that time, you can get it wet. but you just can't use any shampoo because like they wake up the next day, you know, they want to get it wet. Just no shampoo for 48 to 72 hours, depending on the manufacturer. That's important because it takes that long for that chemical to like set in the hair. And by shampooing it, you're kind of undoing it a little bit. I've seen it be frizzy. I've seen it relax the curls. It's just, you just don't want to do it. So then a month goes by, 6 weeks goes by, that hair grows out. Now their hair is growing out and their hair is kind of getting straight. And they come back to you and they say, hey, my perm's gone away. 99% of the time, well, 99.9% of the time, if you just trim 1/4 to a 1/2 inch off that head, that curl is going to spring right back up. What's happening is the hair is growing, the weight of the hair is holding it down, and those ends are dead, so it's not allowing it to curl properly. So by just trimming that 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch off the ends, it actually springs the curl right back up. And you need to do that about every 4 to 6 weeks, 4 to 8 weeks, just depending on how fast the person's hair grows. After about 3 months or so, it should be grown out enough if they have short hair to redo the perm. If they have longer hair, you can redo the top and just do like a partial perm. So, you know, you're just gonna have to figure out what that client is looking for and what they want at that time. I only perm my hair every summer and then that's it. I don't do it in the wintertime. So once we finish the client, we clean up and we have to fill out our record card. So remember with the client record card, we're going to put the date, the service, what product you used, what color rods you used, processing time, how much you charged them, and then any notes that you may have to write down, like, you know, next time use this, or cut hair before, you know, and trimmed after if need be, if it was a big change. I mean, whatever you did, whatever you need to write down for yourself to know, that's what you put on your client record card. Oh, do we have any questions? Oh, sorry about that, I've been yawning. Is there any questions? When somebody asked me a question. Nothing?
Do we have to do the perms?
Yes, you have to do one at state board to get your license, so yes, you do.
You're not going to be doing that kind of service?
You still have to do it to get your license. Once you get your license, you can pick and choose whatever the heck you want to do. But for right now, because we have to teach you everything to get your license, you have to do it. They're not that hard. So let's see, who's done perms, like regular perms? Leslie, I know you have. Junior, I know you have. Ashley, have you done a perm? Ashley? Did we lose her? Okay. I think Jasmine, Carlin, and Valerie are too new. Karen, have you done a perm?
No.
No, you haven't. Have you done it on your doll though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. They're not that bad.
Perms aren't that bad, like everybody says.
They're not.
I don't know what, like when I started, like in phase 1, everybody's like, I hate perms. Perms are so bad. I hate them. And then you do them on people and it's not even that bad. It's like really fun. I'm like,
it's all good up until you deal with one client that has like 3 strands of hair up there and they still want that. Like, what?
dude, that's true.
one
The little
brand
tiny
you can
ones, the
stop.
blue ones, those are so small.
Yeah. Well, you should see the red ones. The red ones are even smaller. So the red ones look like toothpicks almost. They're so small. And that's what I had to learn on because, you know, I went to school in the early 80s where, you know, tight like Afro perms on guys were in. And we used to get these guys coming in that had, you know, like shoulder length hair and they wanted that big, you know, curly look like Bob Ross. And so, you know, I was learning on those red rods. And at that point in time, I was like, this is the worst thing ever. And then I realized that there was many different types of perms and many different sizes of the rods to use. And so then I was like, oh, well, this isn't bad at all. But yeah, but you have to remember, see, I'm a child of the 80s, so perms were in. And my first job out of school, it was nothing to do, I mean, short hair, but it was nothing to do 5 perms a day. And that's what I was doing there. I mean, everybody was getting perms and we were doing like 5 perms a day. Yeah. And an 8-hour day. So it was kind of fun. I was 18. I had money in my pocket. I had my own apartment because I was making the money to pay for it. I thought it was really cool. I wish I would have stayed home, but yeah, I thought it was really cool. So it works. So does anyone have any questions? No questions? None?
Like this, like everybody said, perm is easy. It's just practice, and I hate perms.
Yep. You just have to practice. That's all it takes. Just practice. We have this little thing around here called a PMP. Practice makes perfect. Okay, so instead of saying PMP, we try to make a word out of it. So it became like this joke for a while, you know, or someone else say, oh yeah, that looks good. Okay, drop it down and do it again. That means take it all out and redo it, right? So keep practicing, keep practicing. When you're at state board, this goes for Cosmos and Barbers. You guys all have to do a perm. It's basically the same thing for both Cosmos and Barbers, but you have to wrap 12 to 16 rods in a matter of 10 minutes. So that might take some practice because I've seen some students takes 30 minutes just a section. So yeah, you've got to practice this stuff just to get that done to pass your test. It has to be done. They give you one at board, both Cosmos and Barbers. So yeah, you'll have it. You'll have a lot of stuff at board that you might not do. You might choose not to do it once you get your license, but you have to pass the test. Which means, Alejandro, that you have to practice. Yes. Yes, Hanek, he has to practice.
I'm gonna be like, hey, did one of you guys drop $100 bill?
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta practice it. It's just all there is to it. Wait till we get you with the curling iron. Yeah, that's. Oh, see, there you go. You were doing it.
Yeah, that's a 3-day process right there.
Well, it's your first time, right? So, first time, yeah. About a week is about right to get one done for your very first time of doing it. See, when you do it for a while, you can do it like I do in about what, 30 minutes or so. And I don't even do perms nearly like I used to, and I can get this things wrapped pretty fast still. So it's just practice. Once you get it down, it's like riding a bike, right? You won't forget it. You'll just get back and start doing it again.
Sonny got really good at those, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did. Yeah, they're not really that hard. You just got to practice. And in the beginning, you're going to struggle. Of course you are, because you've never done it before.
I couldn't manage to get them to where they would like just stay tight. Like they just kept like, they'd stay rolled, but they would be like super loose, and meaning like they would just kind of like fall apart. They wouldn't stay wrapped together tight throughout the whole section, throughout the whole and stuff.
Well, we're just going to practice the band adjustment. Okay, so if they're too loose, just lift the band up closer to the scalp. Okay, so that's what happens when you're rolling them, and then you put the band on there, just kind of falling all over the place. You either don't have your tension correct when you're rolling it, like you need to get that good tension in there, or you, when you've placed the band on it, it's just not tight enough, and just move it up a little bit more towards the scalp. And that usually makes it a little bit tighter. Yeah. Okay, well, if there's no questions, I'm just gonna go ahead and call it right now. Remember 1 o'clock, we're gonna get back on. We're gonna still be in chapter 1 in theory. So yeah, I'll see you guys at 1 o'clock. Have a good lunch. Eat something yummy.
Well, what happened? Why are we coming back at the 1?
Theory. So remember, we're doing the 10 to 12 for practical, and then we're doing 1 to 2 for theory, and then we're doing 2 to 4 for the ones that don't make it on here, or for anybody that needs any help or has any questions, come on and ask them. Okay.
All right.
So you guys at 1.